Again, our instructions are to factor using the greatest common factor method, and the polynomial that we're going to be looking at is 6x to the fourth minus 18x to the third plus 12x squared. So using the method that we used in part 1 of factoring using GCF, or greatest common factor, first of all we want to look at our numbers or our coefficients, and we want to figure out what the greatest common factor of those are. We have a 6, we have a negative 18, and we have a 12. So the greatest common factor, or the largest number that we could divide out of each of those three numbers, is a 6. Next, we want to look at our variables. We have an x to the fourth, an x to the third, and an x squared. And so the largest of those that we could factor out of all three of them would be an x squared. And so now what you want to do is you want to open a set of parentheses just like we did before, and you want to figure out what's left over after you divide away or factor out the 6x squared from each term. So if you divide away 6x squared from 6x to the fourth, you're left with just x squared. If you divide away 6x squared from negative 18x to the third, you're left with negative 3x. And then if you divide away or factor a 6x squared out of a 12x squared, you're just going to be left with 2. And so now we have 6x squared multiplied by the polynomial x squared minus 3x plus 2. And so for a problem like this, you want to take it one step further. So we factored so far using the greatest common factor, but we want to see if we can factor this out all the way. So we can't really do anything with our 6x squared, so let's go ahead and rewrite that. But what we can do is we can look at the x squared minus 3x plus 2, that trinomial, and we can see if we can't factor it even further. And so what we should do in this case is we should open two sets of parentheses, and we should put an x in each of the first slots, because x times x would give us x squared. Next, you want to think of your factors of 2. So the only factors of 2 are going to be a 1 and a 2, because 1 times 2 gives you 2. And then we want those to combine somehow to give us negative 3x. And so since we have a positive 2, we know we're going to have the same sign, either plus plus or minus minus. But since we want those to combine to negative 3x, we know we're going to have a minus in front of the 1 and a minus in front of the 2. Because minus 1 minus 2 more gives us the negative 3. And so there we are. We now have fully factored our original polynomial into 6x squared multiplied by x minus 1 multiplied by x minus 2.